All right, so how DC20's conditions make combat smarter and deadlier. Again, I am the Nerd Doctor, here to diagnose what's wrong with your RPG game and here to help you fix it. Again, we are going to be showcasing DC20's conditions. 5e conditions are boring, stunned, blinded, paralyzed. We've seen them all before. But what if every status felt like a meaningful threat and an opportunity? Let's talk about DC20's combat system and how they've absolutely changed the game of combat right alongside action points. So, what conditions should be? In D&D 5e, many conditions are passive and repetitive. Stunned, wait and skip your turn. Restrained, maybe roll to break out, nothing creative. There's little variation, and worst of all, most conditions are either you can't act or you roll with disadvantage. DC20 flips this on its head. Conditions are tailored, modular, and actionable, and they are often stackable, time-sensitive, and synergistic. They're so unique. There's more than there were in D&D, and at first when I saw the conditions list, I was like, we ain't gonna ever use this, and now I'm like, please give me more. Bleeding, the poster child of the DC20 conditions. You take damage every single time it becomes your turn, which means you need to stop that bleeding. It's going to take a medicine check or someone to heal you to remove that bleeding, and again, it's stackable. If you get hit with a condition by one attack that causes bleeding, and then hit with another condition that causes bleeding, and then another one that causes bleeding, well, guess what? You're taking 3 points of damage at the start of every one of your turns instead of just one. And that brings us to exposed, which makes the target easier to hit. It essentially gives other people advantage at attacking that target, so you can set up your teammates by applying the exposed condition to a monster that you're facing off. And then the coup de grace, probably the most important condition you can have in DC20, dazed. In my action point video, I mentioned how concentration is no longer a thing in DC20, and it isn't. Sustained spells has replaced conditions, and you use an action point to sustain that spell. In DC20, that is not the case. You no longer getting hit by a spell will cause you to make that roll. You have to be hit with a certain condition. In this case, it's dazed. And again, it's stackable, which should scare the living crap out of our spellcasters, because if you get hit and get dazed, then you get hit, dazed, and one more for good measure. Let's daze them one more time and make sure they really aren't able to sustain any kind of spells, because you have to remove that stack each and every time before you're able to sustain on a spell. And that's a good way to bog down magicians and magic users and sorcerers and any type of magic user in DC20. So these conditions aren't just fluff. They're invitations to play smarter. There's so much strategic depth and role synergy. In DC20, conditions aren't just for casters or controllers, it is also for martial characters. As mentioned, maneuvers play a huge role in applying conditions, and every martial class gets these maneuvers. So this really levels up the martials, and I'll have a much more in-depth video later talking about how martial characters really got their upgrade in DC20, and it is something that has frustrated me for a very long time. I've worked very hard in my older games of D&D of trying to level up martial characters to make them feel more than just hit point sponges and heavy hitters, which is nice, don't get me wrong, but it just lacks the utility. It lacks the time spent being really creative and strategizing in the game the way that all magic casters have to do in D&D. They really have to be tactical with their spell use, and now you've got your martials being really tactical with their maneuver use. So, martial characters have maneuvers that inflict conditions. Spellcasters can apply multiple effects that spend action points creatively and mana points creatively. Support characters can exploit conditions to boost allies. This pushes players to communicate, strategize, and combine abilities. One of my favorite things to do is at the start of every single round of combat, I put a 2-minute timer. I say you have these 2 minutes to figure things out. And it kind of puts a clock on it for them. Kind of. It does put a clock on it for them, which ups the suspense level. It also allows them to sit there and talk about what they're going to do, how they're going to strategize, which also gives me a moment to think about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to strategize and use my monster abilities to tactically set myself up, which much harder to do than 4 people talking creatively, in my opinion, but still very fun. I'm actually thinking about a lot of the tactics that I can use before I even get into a session, and it's a really great what's the word? It's a really not motivator, but it hypes you up. It hypes you up getting ready to combat. I've actually got a combat tonight. I'm really, really excited for. My players are facing one of the demon lords, and I've really created a monster that I'm scared of facing, so I can't wait to see them take it on. But this is why DC20 conditions matter. Every condition feels like it matters because it's tied to an action point, and there's that trade-off. There's that action economy all over again. Not only does it cost you an action point to try to apply a maneuver, but to take that condition away, it's going to require you an action point in a roll to try to remove that condition, which means that your enemy is spending more time trying to face off your conditions than facing off against you, which is what we want. So because you get 4 action points per turn, as I said, you got to use them. Whether you're trying to apply conditions, set yourself up, got to use them. There is a risk-reward balance, which forces you to think about tempo, threat level, and battlefield control. D&D made conditions a chore. DC20 made them a chess move. And once you start thinking this way, you will never go back. If you like this breakdown, please hit that like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your favorite DC20 condition. Again, I'm the Nerd Doctor, here to diagnose what's wrong with your RPG game and here to help you fix it. This has been the Nerd Doctor. Your next game just got smarter. I'm trying off a whole lot of different taglines in these next few videos, so please send me a comment with the one you like, because I can't seem to figure out the one that works well for me. And if you haven't checked out DC20 yet, you will see the link in the description. I will also, in the future, have a player mat and cards with maneuvers, with spells, with the classes, all summed up on little note cards for people to just kind of clean up the clutter on a piece of paper that we often get, which we call a character sheet. So not out yet because, of course, DC20 is still in beta, but I will have those as soon as some of these rules are finalized, and I will have the full conditions list available on that player mat. All right, thanks for listening, guys.